think about it, it's the brainstorming that we took that will help us on the next
The
project.
next part. Yeah.
It's just like when we met about the business side of things, um, it's what are we doing from that business side that not just helps us in that one moment, but when the next moment comes open, that 2.5 hour conversation was already had, and now it's a 15-minute conversation.
Yeah. And I think that's really true. I mean, then you can make an educated decision. And a lot of times you have to be quick. You still have to be quick in this
Yeah.
market. And so,
Yep.
yeah, that's interesting. So tell me about like when I could go on and on and on about financial services, but I really wanted to
Yeah.
focus too on you as an owner and as a founder. And like, what are some of the things that you've had to conquer inside of your business that maybe you didn't know you were going to have to get into? I mean, you've been in the financial services world for quite a while, but
Mhm.
5 years ago, you became a founder in your own firm.
Right.
What's something like you just like, holy cow, I never even thought I'd have to do that?
Well, to answer that honestly, I would have to say everything. Right?
It is.
Right?
I say it all the time. You're the point of failure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You are, the buck stops with you.
Yep.
And so you make all the decisions and all the eyes are judging, right? And,
Yep.
and watching or applauding, and it's
Right.
difficult. Um,
But
but give us something like, for me, it was kind of like payroll. I sold
yeah.
payroll services for years and I was like, oh shoot, I'm going to have to do payroll.
Yep.
I never did payroll. I just sold it.
Right. Yeah. You're like, oh, this is the other side of the mix, right?
Right, right.
Um, and that, so one of the biggest things, and I'm like a salesperson, I guess. I love meeting people. I love presenting. My biggest struggle is how much on the back end with running a business that you have to do.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
not I call it the Frank Sinatra, right? It's not just playing the piano. It's, well, what happens to get that piano out there and then back off of the stage that sometimes as business owners we don't think about. Moving from that role that we were in a business, you were part of business, to having your own business, you're like, oh wow, that's a lot of movement that takes to get everything ready before the presentation and then after the presentation that you have to do within a business.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned it earlier, process. So you're a process
Mhm.
person, right? So you
Yeah.
set expectations with your clients, but you're pretty dedicated for yourself as well. Uh,
Mhm.
so you mentioned that in the first meeting that we had last week, being the Frank Sinatra, and I literally walked away thinking like, I am not the Frank Sinatra of my company. And started thinking about what are some things that I need to put into place so I can be.
Right.
So give us an example of a process that you've had to put into place so that you either alleviated a little bit of your time, or something that you've had to perfect over the time.
Yeah, so a new process. Well, I've got two. So I've got an assistant that takes care of all the back end stuff. So she makes sure all my appointments are taken care of, all that stuff that I don't have time to do or I don't want to focus on. So I had to build processes for her to say, hey, how are we moving clients through the process each and every time? And she understands that process so that I don't have to do it. Now she was on maternity leave all of March. So you figure out very quickly how much of that work that you were doing that you pushed off to someone else that you delegated, that now it's like, oh, I have to do that all over again.
Yeah.
Which actually it was good for me because I learned, I'm like, okay, I need to change this process. I need to change that process because I relived it again.
Yeah.
Um, and I was like, oh, I can hone on that part of it, but also just helping myself be more that Frank Sinatra piece of it is how much can I delegate that will put that onus on someone else that might have a better specialty than I do, that might have a passion to get that done than I will.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and that delegation, it was hard for me on the delegation side because the trust factor, right? I think as
Hmm.
business owners, we feel like, we own this, we know how to do it all. But in some businesses, like in the restaurant, you have to trust other people to do stuff. You can't do it all yourself.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. It's so true. And I'm one of those people that kind of give all of my trust and then you lose it.
Yeah.
And so when I
Right.
start to lose that trust, that's when I don't still sleep at night, and I start to
Right.
worry about like when it's all going to fall back down on me, because you can start to see that trust like slip.
Right.
Um, I did a couple of years back, we did a trust training.
Hmm.
And it was really interesting to learn. I think we learned actually as an organization how little trust we had. I think they
Oh,
kind
wow.
of backfired
You're
on
like,
us.
oh,
But
I didn't anticipate that.
yeah, so but I did learn, and it was the first time I realized that I was someone that I give it all away, and then at some point I just start losing it with people, and so in other people you have to build that trust up, and
Right.
but yeah, it is difficult, and I when you're talking about like kind of operations and back end, and kind of going back to like your client base, like technology and innovation is changing so much. And I'm going to just like throw in, like, I am a nerd right now about chat GPT and
Yeah.
all the AI innovation. I have a technology background, so it just intrigues me, and I'm trying to learn how to uh, just be the Frank Sinatra. And if it includes chat GPT, I'm all in, but but what are some of the things that you've had to, innovate in your firm for your client base? And tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so obviously the kind of the roadmap, things like that I produce for my clients are all, hand typed, handwritten.
Hmm.
The process so that I can show them kind of what I'm doing. It's funny you mentioned like Chat GPT. So I did a sponsoring of a trivia night the other night, and they needed like a 60-second blurb. And I was like, all right, well, I can think of that, but do I really want to put the brain power behind it? Right. I
Right.
can type it all out and everything. So that's when I went to Chat GPT and was like, hey, I
How
need
long
a,
did it take? 10
it took
seconds?
like, yeah, less than that. And I just copy pasted it and replaced the XYZ company with my company, and it was perfect.
It's
Um,
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's I think technology with where it's going, it's not going to replace us, but it's going to be a service to us as long as we use it appropriately in our business.
Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah, and I 100% agree with that. And I don't, there's always some danger, but if we can innovate the way that, we interact with people, even in the restaurant, online ordering and different things like that. And so, what are some things that your clients are looking for, and how do you make sure like all of this is secure too, because you're holding on to a lot of people's information, and I'm sure you've got some
yeah.
awesome stories to share, but that you got to keep it, you're almost like a doctor, right? Do you have a
Mhm.
HIPAA
Correct.
compliance, or how do you keep that
Yeah.
to
So
yourself?
obviously I have all of people's private sensitive information.
Yeah.
And I use like every email that goes out is encrypted if it
Mhm.
has any type of data associated with it. And so I have to pay for like an encryption service to do that. And if it does have, policy, Social Security, they have to open it up and create a secure email account
Yeah.
on their end. But also I use another software. So I use a financial tool called eMoney.
Hmm.
So if I'm sharing documents back and forth with folks, it's also a financial planning software that my clients have access to, so they can see the status of their accounts.
Uh-huh.
But it has a vault that's inside of it that we can share documents back and far and back and forth. So if they're sharing a recent statement with me or a picture of a driver's license with me, instead of shooting it through email, they will upload it from their computer onto this software, which obviously is safe and secure because it pulls information from all the banks,
Yeah.
all the financial companies that are out there. So that's the one way I use technology, and it helps build that trust instead of a lot of my clients, my traditional clients are in their retirement, and they're going into the retirement years, and they're concerned about safety, right? These are the folks that like, I don't want to use my credit card online.
Yeah.
Yet I'll cut a check and put it in the mail, that has my account number on there. And I'm like, well, we'll take care of it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So they want to know there's some safeguards and protection in there. And that's a couple of things that I use in my firm to protect my clients' information.
Right. Yeah. It's so true. I think sometimes it's a generational thing as
Mhm.
well. I don't, I like to keep my stuff secure. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I feel like it's out there anyways. So I just need to make sure, that the transactions that happen are actually the ones that are happening.
Right.
And it's, I've signed I learned years ago, I signed a wire document, and I emailed it over and the subject line said wire.
Mhm.
And that bank account got lifted within, I don't know how, the turnaround, but got lifted, transposed, and that wire went to someone else's bank account.
Oh, wow.
And that was a hard conversation to call your husband and be like, do you remember that wire we sent 3 days ago?
Yeah.
It is somewhere else. We were able to retrieve it. But it
That's
took
good. Yeah.
months. It took months to get it
Oh,
back.
yeah. That's not an easy to get back.
This is so crazy. You didn't even think about it. The bank didn't think about, or it was the broker that we were we were trying to buy a business. And so
Right.
no big deal. Send the wire instructions.
Right.
The word wire instructions was, probably scanning somehow. So, and yeah, but trying to stay secure, don't get me wrong. I think it's always is important, and it's getting more and more important because the technology is just getting better, and the hackers are getting better, and the scare tactics are getting better. And so, yeah, it's always a frame of mind. And we think about it too, as we run credit cards and just staying PCI
Yeah.
compliant. And even that is backwards. If you still kind of think about it, you have a server walking away from you with your credit card,
Your credit card. Yeah.
you know?
And now they've got some credit cards that don't even have the numbers listed on it, so that you cannot even, get the numbers off of it. I think
Yeah.
that's probably where things will go in that sense, is it's all encrypted somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because I mean, when we transact in a day-to-day business, how soon will it be when we don't even have credit cards? I mean, I do a lot of stuff through my wallet, right? My
Right.
e-wallet. If they have that type of processing there, it's just use your phone and it's good to go. But then
Yeah.
how secure is your phone? It's like all these other like domino effects.
Well, and I've always been intrigued too, and I know that the cryptocurrency, but just the
Mhm.
way of transacting money takes so long.
Yeah.
It takes so long. I'm always surprised how little control we have with that. And
Mhm.
so I just remember, we had an SBA loan. And so just trying to make a repair to a property that had a lien on it to support that loan, the bank said, well, that's our house. And I went, that's my house. I sleep there,
Right.
But when I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. It is your house, darn it.
Yeah.
And, the hold on that was so long just to get the vendor paid. And so it's amazing how trying to move money and exchange money takes so long. And I get why, but you would think in this day and age,
Mhm.
it needs to somehow progress.
Right. Which you talk about wires and even, wiring money. It's so like it should be instantaneous, right? It's just one bank talking to the next. But sometimes it's like, okay, well, if I do it in the morning, it doesn't get to you till 2:30 in the afternoon. you know?
Well, the smaller the bank, the more personal the bank, it seems
Right.
like the longer it takes,
Right.
right? They
Yeah.
always say go with your local, someone that knows you.
Yeah.
It seems like, they don't have those systems set up in place. And the processes just aren't, as duplicated.
Right.
So
And that
it's
kind of
always
goes,
go ahead.
yeah, that kind of goes back to like how we process things and is setting expectations, right? With clients or who employees or whatever it is. It's how can we make that process even better, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so that our clients aren't talking about it later on saying, hey, why did this take so long? What happened with this? Or,
Right.
why am I getting that? Why am I not getting notified on the timely manner that I should be? If clients want to have an update on a weekly basis, that should have been discussed as an expectation rather than
Right.
a surprise later on. So
Right. Yeah. Well, it always goes back to expectations, it seems
yeah.
like. So, well, I appreciate you sharing all these little details, and I love your symphony and your Frank Sinatra approach.
Yeah.
It definitely kind of dropped with me all week, and I just was thinking about it and resonating. I think if we can all just like hone in on, our niche and our specialty and stick to that, like the amount of productivity that we can create in our lives is just so much better.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to,
Yeah.
it's a nice, easy swoop thing to say, but it's so hard. Um,
Yeah.
So how can people reach out to you, and give us a shameless plug. Tell us what you're looking for, and tell us, give us something that we can reach out to. We'll obviously include any links that you have for us in the show notes here, but tell us anything that we can do to reach out to you.
Yeah, so if people want to reach out,